Stop! You fucking thief! The security guard's shout echoed through the Richmond, Virginia mall. Malik, a well-dressed black teenager, faced false accusation due to his appearance. As tension rose and truth emerged, questions lingered. How often do assumptions lead to unfair actions? What happens when those in power confront their biases? Share your location in the comments and subscribe for more impactful stories. The Richmond Mall buzzed with life, shoppers moving through its bright corridors. Storefronts reflected high-end fashion, fleeting images of passers-by. Ethan, the night security guard, surveyed the scene with practiced eyes. 2 years on the job, yet tonight felt different, an unease he couldn't pinpoint. His radio crackled. Sarah, his partner, asked, "All good on your end?" Ethan adjusted his radio. "So far, so good. Just the usual weekend crowd." His gaze swept the floor, catching a group of teenagers near Bon Ami, an upscale store. 4 of them laughed loudly, a typical Friday evening sight. Among them was Malik, sharply dressed in a navy jacket, tailored jeans, and sleek sneakers. He stood out from his more casually dressed friends in hoodies and worn shoes. Ethan's eyes locked on Malik, suspicion sparking in his chest. No real reason, just instinct, he thought. The teens weren't shopping, just loitering. Maybe looking for trouble. His radio crackled again, breaking his thoughts. "You see something?" Sarah's voice was calm, but held a knowing undertone. She'd worked with Ethan long enough to sense his alertness. "Maybe," Ethan replied, already moving towards the group, "just checking something out." As Ethan approached, Malik glanced over, then returned to his phone, oblivious to the scrutiny. Ethan slowed, sizing up the situation. He cleared his throat, his voice stern. "Hey," Ethan said, gesturing, "what are you all doing here?" One of the boys in a backwards cap gave him a bored look. "Just hanging out, man. We're not doing anything wrong." Ethan's gaze fixed back on Malik, the most sharply dressed. His heart rate quickened. "You," Ethan pointed, "what are you doing?" "Been watching you stand here for a while." Malik looked up, calm but confused. "Waiting for my friends," he said steadily. "Why?" Ethan's face hardened. "Why?" "Because you don't look like you're waiting for anything. I want to know if you've been inside the store." He gestured towards Bon Ami's glass doors, his tone accusatory. Malik blinked, disbelief spreading across his face. "What? No, I haven't. I've just been standing here." The laughter of Malik's friends died down. They shifted uneasily, their attention now solely on Ethan. Sarah, watching from afar, felt her stomach churn. She'd seen Ethan do this before, single out people without cause. But this time felt different. She saw the fear in Malik's eyes, the shift in the atmosphere. "You think I'm shoplifting?" Malik asked, his voice no longer steady, tinged with incredulity. He glanced at the store, as if trying to understand why he was being targeted. Ethan stepped closer. "You tell me. Why don't you empty your pockets?" The demand hung heavy in the air, stifling the casual atmosphere. The other teens fell silent, their eyes darting between Ethan and Malik. Malik stood taller, his posture firm. "No, I didn't steal anything. I'm not emptying my pockets. I haven't done anything wrong." Ethan's eyes narrowed, his frustration growing. "Empty your pockets," he repeated, his voice louder, drawing the attention of nearby shoppers. "What's going on here?" a woman asked from a distance, curiosity spreading through the gathering crowd. Sarah saw things spiraling. This was going too far. She clenched her fists, her pulse quickening. Ethan was on a power trip. Malik took a deep breath. Listen, man, I'm just here to meet my friends. I don't want any trouble. He reached for his phone, his voice tight. If you keep this up, we're going to have a problem. A smirk flickered across Ethan's lips. Oh, we already have one. Suddenly, Ethan lunged and grabbed Malik's arm. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I told you to empty your pockets, now. Malik pulled back, trying to stay composed. Let go of me, his voice was no longer calm, sharp with building frustration. You have no right. Ethan tightened his grip, the situation turning chaotic. People began recording with their phones, whispering as they watched. Sarah's heart pounded. This was wrong. She stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. Ethan, that's enough. Ethan glanced at her, surprised. What? You think he's innocent? Sarah swallowed hard, her face pale but resolute. I do. You're going too far. Ethan released Malik, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. You have no idea what you're talking about. Malik straightened his jacket, his voice calm but cold. You just made a big mistake. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but Malik cut him off, speaking louder for the crowd to hear. You wanna know who I am? My name is Malik Dawson. He paused, letting his words sink in. My father owns this mall. And when he hears about what just happened, you'll be out of a job. The weight of Malik's words hit Ethan like a freight train. His eyes widened in shock, his hands dropped. What did you say? Ethan asked, his voice suddenly small, stripped of authority. You heard me, Malik said. Now call your manager. I want to talk to them right now. Sarah stepped forward, her voice firm. I'll call them, Malik. I'm sorry for what happened. I'll make sure this is handled. Ethan stood frozen, his confidence shattered. Onlookers murmured, some shaking their heads. Malik stared at Ethan for a long moment before turning to Sarah. Let's get this sorted out, Malik said quietly, the anger still beneath the surface. As Sarah led Malik away, Ethan stood alone, the consequences of his bias sinking in. In the following days, mall management launched a full investigation into Ethan's conduct. The incident went viral, videos of Ethan's aggression and Malik's calm resistance spreading online. Outrage grew, demands for answers reaching mall leadership. Ethan was suspended pending the investigation. The damage was done, the footage exposed a deeper issue. Sarah became a key witness, speaking against Ethan's actions. It wasn't easy, but she couldn't stay silent. Ultimately, justice prevailed. Ethan lost his job. The mall implemented new training programs focused on eliminating racial profiling and ensuring respectful treatment for everyone. Malik didn't just want punishment, he wanted positive change. Thanks to his persistence, change began. Months later, the mall was quieter, the crowds thinner, echoes of the past lingering. But for Malik, Sarah, and those who witnessed it, justice had been served, a reminder that prejudice has consequences and truth emerges. Ethan sat at home that evening, staring blankly at the TV as news reports played in the background. He'd been glued to it for hours, hoping the mall incident wouldn't be mentioned again, but it was, repeatedly. The latest on the Richmond Mall incident, where a security guard was caught on video racially profiling a black teenager. Ethan rubbed his face in frustration. His phone buzzed, ignored. He knew it was his supervisor, 3 voicemails confirming his suspension was becoming permanent. The mall couldn't afford the PR nightmare. The footage had spread beyond Richmond, news channels, online forums, and social media condemning his behavior. Strangers dissected his life, labeling him a villain. He switched off the TV, silence filling the room, broken only by his breathing. What had he been thinking? It had felt instinctual, just doing his job. But now, replaying the scene, it was clear, Malik had done nothing wrong, yet Ethan had treated him like a criminal from the start. He knew what was coming, official termination. And then there was Malik, not just any teenager, with connections, power. Ethan was nothing. He'd probably never work security again. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. His thoughts kept returning to Sarah. She'd been there, watched it all, and in the end, turned on him. Maybe she was right, saw things clearer. But it still felt like betrayal. Meanwhile, Malik sat in his father's office, walls lined with awards detailing his father's success. Malik had grown up with wealth and privilege, but none of it shielded him from that moment at the mall. Not his clothes, his family's money, or his father's status. He stared at his phone, scrolling through dozens of texts and DMs since the video went viral. Everyone was talking about it. Some messages were supportive, others laced with anger and confusion. Why hadn't he fought back more? Malik turned off his phone, tossing it aside. It wasn't simple. He'd tried to stay calm, prevent things from escalating. But the humiliation still stung. He could still feel Ethan's grip, the crowd's judging stares. His father entered, his presence commanding. "Malik, we need to talk." Malik straightened. He knew his father had been in meetings all day with mall management. His father valued reputation above all else, and this incident had thrown their family into an unwanted spotlight. "I just got off the phone with the board," his father said, sitting across from him. "They're taking this very seriously. The guard, Ethan, he'll be fired, and they're going to review all of their security practices moving forward." Malik nodded, unsure how he felt. "Good, but it's not just about firing him, Dad. It's about making sure this doesn't happen again to anyone." His father's expression softened. "I know, and we're working on that. But Malik, you have to understand something. In situations like this, it's easy for people to get caught up in the moment. They make mistakes, sometimes big ones. That's what happened here." Malik frowned, his voice firm. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. His father held his gaze, then nodded slowly. "You're right, it was a choice. And that's why we're not letting this slide." A pause, the weight of the conversation between them. Malik saw his father trying to handle this professionally, like any business crisis. But for Malik, it was personal. "I want to be involved in the changes," Malik said suddenly, surprising himself. His father raised an eyebrow. "Involved? How?" "I don't know yet," Malik admitted, "but I want to make sure the policies they put in place actually do something, that they actually stop this from happening again to anyone, not just me." His father considered him, then nodded. "All right, we can make that happen." Sarah sat in the security office the next day, staring at her reflection in the blank computer screen. The investigation was over, but she couldn't shake the feeling she should have done more. She had hesitated, letting Ethan control the situation for too long before stepping in. Now, with the fallout, she wondered if she could have prevented it all. When she first took the job, it wasn't about power, she genuinely wanted to help people. But over time, she'd seen how easy it was to fall into routine, let biases slip in unnoticed. She sighed, glancing at Ethan's empty desk. He hadn't been back, and wouldn't be returning. She wasn't sorry, what he did was wrong, but it still weighed on her how easily things had escalated. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Malik stood there, hands in his pockets, looking calm but with a new weight in his expression. "Hey," he said, stepping inside, "you got a minute?" Sarah nodded. "Of course, come on in." Malik sat across from her, silence hanging between them. It was their first conversation since the incident. Sarah had expected anger, but Malik seemed just tired. "I just wanted to say thanks," Malik finally said, "for speaking up. I know it couldn't have been easy." Sarah shook her head. "No, it wasn't, but it was the right thing to do. And I'm sorry I didn't do it sooner." Malik nodded, his eyes downcast. "It's crazy how things can get out of hand so fast. I never thought something like that would happen to me, you know? But now it's like... I don't know, I'm looking at things differently." Sarah understood, she was too. The situation had opened her eyes to subtle biases in her work. "I think a lot of people are," she said softly, "and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it means something will actually change." Malik smiled faintly. "Yeah, that's what I'm hoping." The days turned into weeks, Malik's life not quite returning to normal. Though he kept a low profile, the video of his encounter with Ethan continued to circulate. Interviews, calls from advocacy groups, even local news requests followed. His father shielded him from the media storm, but school was different. People treated him differently, some as a hero, others with pity. Malik was unsure how to feel. He was glad the incident sparked a conversation about racial profiling, but he also wanted to move on. Yet, he knew things had changed for good. One afternoon, Malik sat at a quiet cafe with his best friend, Ryan. Ryan stirred his drink. "Man, it's wild how everything blew up. One minute we're just hanging out." His voice trailed off. "Yeah," Malik said, staring out the window, "it's still hard to wrap my head around. I didn't think something like that would happen to me." Ryan nodded. "No one ever does. But you handled it like a champ. I don't know how you stayed so calm." Malik shrugged. "I don't know either. I just knew if I lost it, things would get worse, especially with Ethan." He wasn't looking to listen. Ryan's expression darkened. He was just looking for a reason to start something. "We all saw it." Malik sighed. "Yeah, but at least something good is coming out of it. My dad's been talking with mall management about real changes, new training, new policies, stuff that might actually make a difference." "That's awesome," Ryan said, sitting up straighter. "Maybe it'll stop things like that from happening to other people." "Maybe," Malik said thoughtfully, a hint of doubt in his voice. He wanted to believe change was possible, but new ingrained biases didn't disappear overnight. Ryan leaned forward. "You ever think about what you're gonna do next, with everything that's happened?" Malik smiled faintly. "Funny you mention that. I've been thinking about getting more involved, not just with the mall, but with other stuff, community programs, maybe talking to schools about what happened." Ryan raised his eyebrows, impressed. "That's huge, man. You'd be great at that." Malik chuckled. "I don't know about that, but I feel like I need to do something. After everything, I can't just sit back and pretend it didn't happen. People need to hear these stories, they need to understand." Ryan nodded, and they sat in silence for a while. Malik wasn't sure where his path would lead, but he knew he couldn't go back to the way things were. At the mall, changes were underway. Ethan was terminated, and new diversity and bias training was rolled out for all employees, led by outside experts. The incident with Malik was a wake-up call. Sarah attended the training, sitting quietly, listening to examples of unconscious bias. It was uncomfortable, hitting too close to home, but necessary. She couldn't pretend she hadn't been part of the problem. Even if not as aggressive as Ethan, her hesitation had almost cost someone their dignity. Afterwards, lingering in the hallway, her mind swirled. Years in security, but for the first time, she questioned her approach. What other assumptions had she made? How often had bias guided her actions unknowingly? Her phone buzzed, a message from Malik. "Hey Sarah, I'm heading to the mall tomorrow, thought we could talk if you're free." Sarah hesitated, then replied, "Yeah, I'll be there. Let's talk." The next day, Malik arrived at the mall, his steps measured. It felt strange to be back, but necessary. The mall had been a lifelong part of his family's investment, now it felt different. Carefree trips were replaced by awareness. He met Sarah near the security office. She looked nervous but determined. The incident had affected her too. "Hey," Sarah said, offering a small smile, "thanks for meeting me." Malik nodded. "No problem." They stood in silence, the shared experience hanging in the air. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice soft but steady. "I wanted to apologize again for what happened. I should have stepped in sooner. I saw what was going on, but I froze. I let Ethan take it too far." Malik listened thoughtfully, appreciating her honesty. "I get it," Malik said finally, "it's not easy to speak up, especially with someone you work with. But I'm glad you did in the end." Sarah nodded, relief washing over her. "Thanks. And I'm glad you're okay. I've been thinking a lot, and it's made me realize how much more I need to learn. This whole situation, it's opened my eyes." Malik smiled faintly. "It's opened a lot of people's eyes, I think." They talked longer, exchanging thoughts on the mall's changes and the broader conversation about racial profiling. Malik shared his plans for community involvement, and Sarah offered her support. As they parted, Malik felt closure, though the journey wasn't over. There was still work ahead. But for the first time since the incident, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe something good could come of it all. Months later, the Richmond Mall was different. New policies, comprehensive security training, a priority on inclusivity. Incidents like Malik's were to be prevented. Malik became an advocate, speaking at schools about his experience and the importance of standing against prejudice. His story inspired others, sparking overdue conversations. Sarah continued at the mall, her perspective shifted, more thoughtful in her interactions. She learned security wasn't just rules, but protecting all with fairness. Ethan disappeared, moving out of Richmond, unable to find work. Malik didn't rejoice in Ethan's downfall, but new actions had consequences. While